At 2:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this afternoon, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant stood before international defense journalists in Tel Aviv and declassified intelligence assessments that fundamentally invalidate Iran's strategic positioning around the Strait of Hormuz. What he revealed represents the culmination of years of intelligence collection, military planning, and technological development that renders Iranian threats to close the world's most critical oil choke point essentially meaningless. What you are about to hear changes every calculation about Iranian leverage, Middle Eastern security architecture, and the military balance of power throughout the Persian Gulf region. This is not analysis or speculation. This is documented Israeli intelligence proving that Iran's last card has just been removed from the table. The Strait of Hormuz has represented Iran's primary strategic leverage for 4 decades. This narrow passage between Iran and Oman measures 21 miles at its narrowest point and carries approximately 21% of the world's seaborne petroleum. Approximately 21. 2 million barrels of oil transit the strait daily, representing crude exports from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Iran itself flowing toward Asian, European, and American markets. The strait's geographic position makes it irreplaceable for Persian Gulf energy exports, and Iran's control of the northern coastline provides Tehran with the capability to threaten closure through military action. Iranian military doctrine for closing Hormuz rests on 3 primary capabilities. First, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates more than 1,500 fast attack boats equipped with anti-ship missiles, naval mines, and rocket-propelled grenades distributed among bases along Iran's southern coast. Second, land-based anti-ship missile batteries, including Chinese-supplied C-802 missiles and Iranian-developed Noor and Qatar missiles, with ranges exceeding 75 miles, can target vessels throughout the strait from positions inside Iranian territory. Third, Iran has developed extensive underwater mine-laying capabilities designed to deny enemy naval forces access to the strait through threat of catastrophic damage to warships and commercial vessels alike. Iran has invested billions of dollars over decades building these capabilities specifically because Hormuz closure represents the ultimate deterrent against American or Israeli military action targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. Tehran's strategic calculation has been that any attack on Iranian territory would trigger retaliation closing Hormuz, creating a global energy crisis that would force Western nations to pressure Israel or the United States to cease operations and negotiate settlements favorable to Iran. This deterrent has shaped American and Israeli military planning for decades, making every strike option more complex and more risky because of potential Hormuz consequences. Israeli intelligence agencies have studied Iranian Hormuz capabilities exhaustively. Mossad operatives inside Iran have provided detailed information on IRGC naval base layouts, weapons storage locations, command and control facilities, and operational procedures. Israeli satellite reconnaissance has mapped every Iranian military installation along the Hormuz coastline with resolution sufficient to identify individual weapon systems and track their movements over time. Israeli signals intelligence has intercepted Iranian naval communications, revealing operational plans, tactical procedures, and command relationships throughout the IRGC Navy structure. The intelligence assessment that Minister Gallant revealed this afternoon synthesizes decades of collection into a comprehensive analysis of actual Iranian capabilities versus claimed capabilities. The assessment concludes that Iran cannot close the Strait of Hormuz for any meaningful duration against determined opposition from the United States Navy, even with full commitment of all Iranian naval and missile forces. The reasons involve a combination of Iranian capability limitations, American technological advantages, and tactical realities that Iran cannot overcome, regardless of resources invested or determination demonstrated. Subscribe to this channel immediately and enable notifications because what comes next explains exactly why Israeli intelligence reached this conclusion. And understanding these technical details matters for anyone trying to evaluate Iranian military capabilities accurately. This is breaking right now, and the implications extend far beyond just Hormuz security. The first critical limitation involves the actual combat effectiveness of Iran's fast attack boat fleet. These vessels represent the primary tool Iran would use to harass commercial shipping and challenge American naval forces. The IRGC operates approximately 1,120 of these boats, distributed among bases at Bandar Abbas, Jas, Kish Island, and multiple smaller facilities along the coast. The boats range from small speedboats carrying rocket-propelled grenades to larger vessels mounting anti-ship missiles and multiple crew members. Israeli analysis demonstrates that these boats have fatal vulnerabilities that Iran has never successfully addressed despite decades of development. The vessels lack any meaningful air defense capability beyond small arms fire, making them extremely vulnerable to aircraft and helicopter attack. They operate effectively only in calm seas and lose combat capability in the rough conditions common in the Persian Gulf during winter months. They require extensive shore-based support, including fuel, maintenance, and command guidance, that becomes unavailable if shore facilities face destruction. Most critically, they depend on achieving surprise to close within weapons range of targets before defenders can react, and modern radar and surveillance systems eliminate the surprise element that made these boats threatening in previous decades. The Israeli intelligence assessment includes specific projections of attrition rates Iranian fast attack boats would suffer in actual combat against the United States Navy. The analysis concludes that American forces equipped with SH-60 Seahawk helicopters carrying Hellfire missiles and AGM-114 longbow radar-guided weapons could destroy the entire Iranian fast boat fleet within approximately 72 hours of sustained operations. Each American helicopter can carry 16 Hellfire missiles with 97% hit probability against small, fast-moving surface targets. The Fifth Fleet maintains sufficient helicopter capacity to engage hundreds of targets simultaneously, overwhelming any Iranian attempt at coordinated attack through sheer volume of defensive firepower. The Iranian anti-ship missile batteries face similar vulnerability problems. These systems include approximately 240 launchers positioned along the coast at sites Israeli intelligence has mapped in detail. The missiles can reach targets throughout the strait and into the Gulf of Oman, providing coverage that theoretically denies access to commercial shipping and military vessels alike. Iranian military doctrine calls for overwhelming American air defenses through simultaneous launch of dozens or hundreds of missiles, creating a saturation attack that exceeds defensive capacity to intercept every incoming weapon. But Israeli analysis reveals that this doctrine fails against actual American defensive capabilities. Modern Aegis combat systems aboard American cruisers and destroyers can track and engage hundreds of targets simultaneously using standard surface-to-air missiles with ranges exceeding 90 miles. Each American warship carries between 90 and 122 missiles in vertical launch cells, providing enormous magazine depth. The radar systems can detect incoming Iranian missiles within seconds of launch and begin engagement sequences while missiles are still ascending toward cruise altitude, providing multiple opportunities to destroy each incoming weapon before it reaches terminal attack phase. The critical vulnerability for Iranian missile batteries involves the launch sequence itself. The moment any launcher fires, it reveals its position through the thermal signature of the missile motor and electromagnetic emissions from guidance systems. American surveillance systems detect these signatures immediately and provide targeting data to strike aircraft orbiting offshore ready to respond. Israeli intelligence estimates that American forces could destroy every Iranian anti-ship missile launcher within the first 6 hours of conflict through combination of Tomahawk cruise missile strikes from submarines and surface ships, air-launched JASSM missiles from B-1B bombers operating from Diego Garcia, and precision-guided munitions from carrier-based FA-18 Super Hornets. The Iranian mine-laying capability represents the most concerning threat because naval mines are cheap, difficult to detect, and can remain dangerous for extended periods after deployment. Iran has stockpiled thousands of naval mines of various types, including contact mines that explode when struck by vessel hulls, influence mines that detonate in response to magnetic fields or acoustic signatures from passing ships, and bottom-sitting mines in shallow water that can target vessels through upward-firing rockets. Iranian doctrine calls for deploying these mines throughout the strait in the opening hours of any conflict, creating a denial zone that would take weeks or months to clear. Israeli intelligence reveals that this capability is far less threatening than Iranian planners believe. Modern mine countermeasure systems, including the United States Navy's MH-53E Sea Dragon helicopters, towing magnetic and acoustic sweep systems, can clear mines at rates exceeding Iranian deployment capabilities. Each Sea Dragon can clear a pathway 1 mile long and 600 feet wide in approximately 90 minutes. The Fifth Fleet maintains 8 of these helicopters immediately available, with additional units deploying from bases in Virginia within 72 hours of crisis onset. Israeli analysis projects that a comprehensive Iranian mining operation, deploying 2,000 mines throughout the strait, could be cleared in approximately 11 days, during which military vessels equipped with mine detection systems could transit safely while commercial shipping temporarily rerouted. But here is where the Israeli intelligence gets truly devastating for Iranian planning. The assessment reveals that American strike operations would not wait for mine clearing operations to complete before destroying Iranian ability to continue threatening the strait. Within the first 24 hours of any conflict, American forces would execute simultaneous strikes against every Iranian military facility along the Hormuz coastline, using Tomahawk cruise missiles, JSSM air-launched missiles, and precision-guided bombs from carrier aircraft and B-1B bombers. The target set includes IRGC naval bases, anti-ship missile batteries, radar installations, command and control centers, fuel depots, ammunition storage facilities, and port infrastructure supporting Iranian naval operations. Israeli intelligence provided specific projections of this strike campaign's effectiveness. The assessment concludes that the United States could reduce Iranian military capability along the Hormuz coastline by 92% within the first 36 hours of operations, using exclusively standoff weapons that never expose American forces to Iranian defensive fire. The destruction would be so comprehensive that Iran would lack the physical capability to threaten commercial shipping regardless of remaining will to do so, because the weapons, sensors, communication systems, and support infrastructure necessary for conducting naval operations would simply no longer exist. The intelligence assessment included video footage obtained through covert means showing the interior of an IRGC Naval Command Center at Bandar Abbas. The footage reveals that Iranian command and control relies on aging computer systems, communication equipment lacking modern encryption, and decision-making processes that require extensive coordination among multiple levels of command authority. Israeli analysts conclude that this command structure could be completely paralyzed through a combination of cyber attacks disrupting computer systems and communications, electronic warfare jamming radio frequencies, and kinetic strikes destroying physical infrastructure. The assessment projects that Iranian naval forces would lose all coordinated command within the first 6 hours of American electronic warfare and cyber operations, reducing individual units to independent action without strategic direction or tactical coordination. Minister Gallant emphasized during his presentation that this intelligence is being shared now because Israeli leadership has concluded that Iranian threats to close Hormuz no longer provide credible deterrent value against military action targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. He stated explicitly that if Israel decides to strike Iranian nuclear sites, the military campaign would include comprehensive operations, neutralizing Iranian Hormuz capabilities simultaneously to eliminate any possibility of successful Iranian retaliation against energy flows. The message to Tehran was unmistakable. Iran's last card has been called, and Israeli intelligence has determined that the card was always a bluff that American military capabilities can expose immediately if necessary. American defense officials speaking privately to journalists confirmed that the Israeli intelligence assessment aligns closely with United States Central Command's operational planning. Pentagon sources indicated that American strike plans for Iranian targets have always included comprehensive Hormuz security operations as a component, but that recent technological improvements in American sensors, weapons precision, and command and control systems have made those security operations significantly more effective than they were even 5 years ago. The sources characterized Israeli public disclosure of these capabilities as helpful clarification to Iranian leadership about what would actually happen if Tehran attempted to follow through on Hormuz closure threats. The economic implications for Iran are devastating beyond just the military dimension. International oil markets reacted to the Israeli intelligence release with significant price declines as traders recalculated the probability of sustained supply disruption from Hormuz closure. Brent crude fell $6.40 per barrel within 3 hours of Minister Gallant's presentation. Natural gas futures for European delivery declined 8% as market participants recognized that Iranian threats to European energy security lacked credible military backing. These price movements directly benefit energy importing nations, while further pressuring Iranian government revenues that depend on high oil prices to offset reduced export volumes under sanctions. Iranian officials in Tehran responded to the Israeli revelations with predictable defiance. Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani dismissed the intelligence assessment as propaganda designed to justify Israeli aggression. IRGC Commander Hossein Salami delivered a televised statement claiming that Iranian military capabilities exceed anything Israeli intelligence has discovered, and that Iran retains the ability to close Hormuz permanently if threatened. Iranian state media published extensive commentary characterizing the Israeli presentation as desperation, reflecting Zionist fears of Islamic Republic power. But these responses ring hollow because they provide no factual rebuttal to specific Israeli intelligence findings. Iranian officials did not dispute that American forces could destroy IRGC naval bases and missile batteries. They did not challenge Israeli projections about mine countermeasure effectiveness. They did not explain how Iranian forces would overcome American defensive capabilities or sustain operations after initial strikes destroyed command and control infrastructure. The Iranian response consisted entirely of rhetoric and general denials, without substantive counter-argument addressing the detailed intelligence Israel presented. Regional allies of the United States immediately recognized the significance of what Israel revealed. Saudi Arabian defense officials issued statements praising Israeli intelligence sharing and emphasizing the importance of transparent security assessments for regional stability. The United Arab Emirates indicated through diplomatic channels that the intelligence confirms their own assessments of Iranian capabilities and strengthens their confidence in collective security arrangements with American forces. These responses signal that Gulf Arab states no longer feel constrained by Iranian Hormuz threats and may pursue more aggressive policies toward Tehran, confident that Iranian retaliation options have been neutralized. The domestic political implications inside Iran are profound. Iranian citizens watching their government's primary strategic deterrent exposed as ineffective will question what else regime propaganda has misrepresented. If Hormuz closure was always impossible, despite 4 decades of investment and countless official statements claiming otherwise, what other regime claims lack factual foundation? This kind of credibility damage accelerates questioning of government policies across multiple domains beyond just military capabilities. Iranian military officers who have spent careers developing and maintaining Hormuz closure capabilities face humiliating recognition that their efforts have been rendered obsolete by American technological advantages and Israeli intelligence penetration. The revelation that Israeli intelligence possesses detailed information on IRGC command center layouts, weapons positions, and operational procedures indicates massive security failures that will trigger extensive investigations, recriminations, and possible purges of officers suspected of providing information to enemy intelligence services. These internal investigations will further damage IRGC cohesion and effectiveness exactly when the organization faces maximum external pressure. The strategic situation has transformed fundamentally. For 40 years, Iran successfully deterred American and Israeli military action against its nuclear program partially through maintaining the threat of Hormuz closure as unacceptable consequence. That deterrent has now been exposed as ineffective against modern American military capabilities. Israel and the United States can strike Iranian nuclear facilities confident that any Iranian retaliation attempting to close Hormuz would fail, while simultaneously providing justification for comprehensive destruction of Iranian military infrastructure along the entire Persian Gulf coast. What happens next depends on decisions Iranian leadership makes about whether to accept this new reality or attempt to restore deterrent value through alternative capabilities or strategies. The regime could invest additional billions attempting to harden targets, disperse forces, develop more sophisticated weapons, or improve defensive capabilities. But Israeli intelligence demonstrated that such investments would face American technological advantages that compound faster than Iranian countermeasures can overcome. The resource competition favors the United States so completely that Iran cannot win regardless of investment levels. Alternatively, Tehran could return to serious nuclear negotiations, offering substantial concessions in exchange for security guarantees that make military strikes unnecessary. This approach requires abandoning the nuclear weapons capability that hardline clerics view as essential for regime security, but it avoids the catastrophic military defeat that would follow from any attempt to implement Hormuz closure after Israeli revelations make clear that such attempts would fail catastrophically. The choice is between accepting diplomatic defeat now or suffering military defeat later, because continuing current policies leads only to escalation that Iran cannot win. The deadline for Iranian decision-making approaches rapidly. Every day that passes without meaningful diplomatic movement increases the probability that Israel proceeds with military strikes, confident that American forces can neutralize Iranian retaliation attempts. Every statement of defiance from Tehran hardens international opinion that diplomatic engagement has failed and that military action represents the only remaining option for addressing Iranian nuclear ambitions. Every failure to acknowledge new strategic realities makes eventual Iranian retreat more humiliating and domestic political consequences more severe. The intelligence that Israel revealed this afternoon represents the culmination of decades of collection, analysis, and operational planning that together have eliminated Iran's primary strategic deterrent. This is not something that happened suddenly. This has been building systematically year after year as Israeli and American intelligence penetrated deeper into Iranian military planning, while technological advantages in sensors, weapons, and command systems created capabilities that Iranian forces cannot effectively oppose. What Minister Gallant revealed today was the conclusion of a process that has been occurring largely out of public view for years, and the revelation transforms regional security calculations that previously balanced Iranian Hormuz leverage against American and Israeli military advantages. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel with notifications enabled, because what happens next will determine whether Iran accepts this new reality and pursues diplomatic options, or whether the regime attempts to maintain its failed strategy, leading inevitably to military confrontation that the Israeli intelligence makes clear Iran will lose catastrophically. The next 72 hours will show whether Iranian leadership possesses the strategic flexibility to adapt to circumstances where their primary deterrent has been neutralized, or whether ideological commitment to revolutionary principles prevents the pragmatic calculations necessary for regime survival. The clock is running, and what Iranian leaders decide right now determines everything that follows.